How's it going, everybody? It's Nino. This is a crazy story, one of the craziest ones I ever heard in my life, to be completely honest, and with no disrespect to my guest. Hey, buddy, you there?
Yeah, hey, what's going on, Nino? This buddy.
Yeah, buddy, I'm going to let you take it away, but real quick, can you just give a quick introduction as to who you are and whatnot?
Okay, yeah. I'm Buddy Webb. I live here in Midland, Texas, but I'm from Hobbs, New Mexico, and I bought a house here that was rigged with a tunnel and hidden access to it. I was reporting people in the attic. Was called crazy. I was then shot by somebody under my home with burglar alarms going off in the attic. I've now identified over 50 other homeowners across the nation reporting people in the attic, more than a dozen in Midland. Incredible stories. A lot of them are recorded. There's no doubt that this is going on. It's nationwide. I think it's connected to human trafficking, and it's being hid by our police and our press.
Wow. Again, when I first heard this, my mind was blown. But without further ado, hey, buddy, can you go ahead and start with the story from the beginning, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
All right, sure, Neil. Yeah, I transferred over here to Midland in 2008 with a large gas company. I was a 25-year company man. It was a promotion that they offered me over here. I bought a home behind the Home Depot store, which you can look that up on Google Maps if you want. And the young previous homeowner that lived here, he's 27 years old. He dies a couple of weeks before I closed on the home. At the time, I was told it was an accident. I now found evidence. I believe they killed him. And actually, another guy wrote me on Facebook and asked me if I knew the names of the 4 people that had been murdered, died in my house. And so, anyway, I moved in here, and I was 2008. Yeah, it was 2008. And his name was Mike Lawhon. Lawhon, 27 years old. Here in Midland, like I said, he died about 2 weeks before I closed on the home, and it's a whole nother story about him. But I have reason to believe he was murdered here and taken to Fort Worth. Then they sold the home to me, and it happened the week before the 2008 oil show party started, and I think that's important. Okay, and we'll get to that here in a minute, but I think that's very important, the timing of when he died. But anyway, so I'm living here a couple years. I'm single. I'm working, I worked at Clay Desta, and I was dating this woman that worked in my building in 2010, in October 2010, and she tells me about a young girl that is murdered at a party going on during the 2010 oil show. Okay, that's the Permian Basin International Oil Show. It's a big international convention. These parties are famous, put on by wealthy people, drugs, drinking, prostitution, etc. Anyways, this young girl didn't want to prostitute, so they killed her. And then I told my friend Angie, I said, Angie, you got to report this, because that's what normal people do. And she was afraid and said high-level police were there. I then get threatened by a police officer. If I talk to her again, they're going to arrest me. And so I let it go. And like I said, that was during the 2010 oil show. Remember, Mike Lawhon died the week before the 2008 oil show started. Okay. The reason that's important, because I believe there's an underground home in the backyard, and that's where the oil show party is going on. But I'll get to that in a minute. Anyways, I reported my first burglary at the house in November 2010. It was just, I noticed somebody had been in my house, regular burglary. And right off the bat, the police, possible crazy, 1096. Okay. 2 months later, I reported my second burglary, and that time I heard somebody in the attic of my house. And I'm very serious, I'm a granddad, 28-year company man, et cetera. There was somebody in my attic. But they called me crazy. That's what happened. These crimes went on. A year later, on January 28, 2012, I'm ambushed and shot by somebody underneath my home with burglar alarms going off in my attic, and my phone lines cut. They tried to kill me in my house. Okay. God saved my life. I crawled down on my hands and knees, and this is caught on video. Okay. You can see it. There's all kinds of proofs and evidences about the phone lines being cut and all this. Anyway, I make it to the hospital. I'm there 10 days. They cut the back of my foot off. Now I'm disabled. This ended a 28-year career. I get out of the hospital, and I find out that the police are saying that I'm crazy and I shot myself after everything that happened. Okay. over time, I started hearing calls on my police scanner of other homeowners reporting people in the attic. Okay. And a lot of times I'd go over and I'd talk to them. I record them. I started making videos. I got over 1 million views on my YouTube channel, over 3 million on TikTok. But this is an incredible true story. And I've now identified over 50 other homeowners from California to Alabama, and it's more every day. Every time I turn around, somebody tells me a new story of people in the attic. Okay, and I've recorded and made videos, probably about a dozen of calls from my police scanner of other homeowners in my area in Midland, Odessa, calling the police and reporting people in the attic. And, when I first called and I reported people in the attic and they called me crazy, they didn't tell me this was going on at all these other homes. Okay. And that's the same thing they're doing to all them other homeowners. They're not telling them that, hey, this is common, this is widespread, and it's all kinds of people are reporting the same crimes. What they're doing is they're refusing to investigate, and then they're falsely labeling the crime victim as crazy. And I
don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to kind of just rear it back a little bit. When you say people in the attic, I mean, that does sound crazy. Wouldn't you agree? When this happened to you, and I guess in '08, was this when you bought the house in '08? Did you notice anything peculiar? Did you catch on to this? Because I have seen reports of, people doing this kind of stuff, and a buddy said that someone lived in someone's attic for 4 months before they caught them. You're claiming people in the attic coming from a hole in the ground underneath your house from a tunnel, correct? Did you catch on to this? Did you hear things? Did you have some kind of weird feeling that someone was in your house? Can you explain that part real quick?
Okay, sure. Yeah, actually, it was, as I said, I moved here in 2008, but I didn't report my first burglary until 2010.
Okay.
And I didn't report anybody in the attic till 2011. Okay. And so I fully believe they were here all that time. And actually, a friend of the previous owner, okay, it was a friend of mine on Facebook. She said she talked to a friend of Mike Lawns, and she said Mike was always talking about people in his house. Okay, so I have reason to believe that the previous homeowner was reporting people here before I did. I tried to get the police reports to show that, and I was denied by the city and the state. I went all the way to Attorney General Paxton. They denied me access to the police reports for my own home. And because I wanted to see,
what was the reason they gave you?
They don't give you a reason, or they give you a bullshit reason. But basically, they tell you no, you can't have them, and because they have access to them records, and you can't get them, and they're police reports for my own home. Okay, it's just before I moved here, and I'm wanting to see if they're confirming what I believe is that Mike was murdered here. And so let me say one other thing. What this means is that there's many other homes out there that have people in the attic and the owners don't know about it, because I think that's the design. Because what it is this is really free rent. Okay, because a lot of people ask the why question. Well, why would they do that? Well, nobody's been arrested, but the obvious reason is that they're coming into this home and they're not paying any rent. So I'm sure it's better, if they're sleeping under a mesquite bush, especially if they just swam across the Rio Grande River or whatever, and it's 32 degrees outside. An attic is a real nice place. And what they're doing is they break apart the heating and cooling system, because then a lot of people say, oh, it's too hot in my attic. But they're literally, the central air conditioning system, they break apart so they're stealing from the homeowner. They're stealing heating, cooling, and electricity, because the other thing, it'd be dark up there, if they didn't have light. So basically after they do that, then what it does is give them rent-free living. And I've estimated that to be around $2,000 a month. I mean, rent's expensive. We all know that, right? And the people that go to work and have to pay for it, right? And so here's what I said before, that say you're a human trafficker and your product is humans. Well, you got to store your product somewhere. If you got to pay $2,000 a piece for them, that's real expensive. But you rig old buddy's home and other people's homes with hidden access, and then it's free. Okay, it's free rent. Is what it is, and that's why they want to be quiet. They don't want to. They're not coming in. They're not stealing TVs and jewelry and all that stuff. They're really basically what they're stealing is services, theft of services from the homeowner. It's a felony. Burglary is a felony. All these are felonies. They go to prison for it. And what I believe.
What would you say to someone that says that you are crazy? That like, how can someone really believe that someone could go into someone's attic and basically stay there, sleep there? What would you say to someone that says that you're just crazy?
Okay. What I would say to them is that then they're calling a whole bunch of people crazy. And I think they're either stupid or they're criminal, because if you're calling me crazy, you're calling a whole bunch of other people crazy, because it's not only me that's reporting the crimes. Okay. I saw a person in my attic. I mean, you're calling me a liar is what you're doing at that point. And more than that, I proved that they put cameras up there. I proved they were hacking the cameras. Okay. Well, it wasn't some guy on the internet hacking the cameras when I put them up there. Okay. I mean, there was a reason they were hacked. That's proof in itself. Okay. I have a video showing that. I have over 100 videos of burglar alarms going off in my house. Over 100. With security lights, motion detectors, etc. There is so much evidence. And then I have all these other homeowners that I have the videos out there on my YouTube channel documented talking about people in their attic. This is going on. And like I said, anybody that comes in here and calls me crazy, like I said, they're either stupid or they're criminal, one or the other. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Buddy, let's go back to your piece of property. How did you get the inclination that this was happening to you? Because, I mean, if you think about it, first hearing about it, it does sound kind of crazy. What was it that made you really sit there and say, man, someone is coming from the ground, a hole in the ground? We want to touch on the tunnels here in a minute that you claim are in West Texas and throughout the United States. But what was it that made you start looking into this? Because this is not, an everyday occurrence, I would say, for most Americans. Go ahead.
Right. And see, I'm the first to say this is a crazy story. Whoever come up with it, like it's a crazy idea, right? And basically, I want to explain how I believe they're doing it.
Okay.
But they got a tunnel coming under a home, okay? They come up a modified wall, and that modified wall has a crawl space that gives them access to get up into a hidden door into the attic. And from there, like I said, they can have still the heating, cooling, and electricity. What that gives them is allows them to come and go all they want without being seen. Okay. And so, like I said, then because you can't see in your attic, you can hear them move around, but of course you can't see them up there, to back up and ask you how I started and figured all that, come to this conclusion and all this. Well, when I first started, all I did was I heard somebody in the attic, and I thought they were coming up the normal way, you know what I mean, through the doors or whatever, you know. I mean, when I first thought there's a burglary, I thought somebody was breaking in through the windows and the doors and all that, I mean, that was just, maybe kids in the neighborhood, whatever, because they wasn't taking anything from my house, and they were in my house, but they wasn't stealing anything. And so I sealed them doors off. I actually replaced the doors with wood and locks and bolts, and I had the roof inspected twice. But my burglar alarms kept going off. I kept hearing people up there. Like I said, the one day I saw a young Hispanic guy up there, I knew it was going on, and I knew they wasn't coming in from a regular door. And the only other way that they can come in is up a wall. Okay. That's the only thing that comes in. As far as the tunnels, it was the ex-wife that was the first one that says, "You think they're coming from the ground?" And my first thought, no way. I've never heard of that. I've never ever heard of anybody tunneling under a home. But now I'm absolutely 100% positive. And in fact, one of the previous owners of this house contacted me, Ricky Ronaldo, and he told me, he says, "Buddy, when we were kids, me and my brother used to go in the tunnels under that house." I have the print screen showing that. Law enforcement could talk to him, And more than that, as I said earlier, I have reason to believe that there's an underground home here. Okay. And not just one underground home. I believe that there's 4 underground homes. And so let me go over the evidence of these underground homes. I'm absolutely positive about this. Okay. the one woman calls me on the phone. I recorded this. It's a YouTube video. She tells me that there's 4 3-bedroom homes buried at least 25 foot deep. They cost over $1 million, and they were having pedophile parties down there. Okay, so I've got her documented. It's not Buddy said, she said. That's a video on my YouTube channel called $1 Million Underground Facilities. Okay.
What year was this? Did you find this out?
It was I don't remember, several years ago, probably
Okay.
2016, 2017. And then another person contacts me on Facebook. We're chatting, and I said, there's underground facility somewhere by here. At Rhonda Denman, I think that's her name, Rhonda Denman Rogers. And she says, I know it's a half block away, and I print screen it. So that's 2 people, and she didn't say 3/4 of a block, 4 blocks. She knew exactly where it was. Once again, law enforcement could talk to her, okay? Because that's 2 people saying that they're...
Buddy, how would these people know that there's underground facilities? How would they know to tip you off? How would they know this?
I can't answer questions for other people,
Okay.
All I can tell you is that's what she told me, and I have proof that's what she said. It's not Buddy said, she said. Okay, I have the print screen of her saying that it's a half block away. Okay, and so that's 2 people.
Okay, well, continue. Go ahead. I was talking about the blueprints, but I'm gonna let you continue on your spill. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The next person that tells me about underground homes or whatever, a woman from Houston contacted me. She was a CAD programmer. That's a computer drafter. Okay. And she said, I talked to her on the phone, and I recorded her, singular recorder, and a print screen. So I've got this proof of her. And Layla O'Brien's her name. And she tells me, she says, I worked on that project. We finished in 1987 with a budget of $7.35 million on permit. And it was called the Safe House Project, and it was put in for the Bushes. Okay. And the Bushes are from Midland, both of them, George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush. And at the time in 1987, George W. Bush was vice president under Reagan. Okay. That's what was going on back then in 1987. Okay. And she's a very solid witness. She says, yeah, we also put in a school there in Midland, and I worked for this company, PDK, and you can go to her LinkedIn and you can see she worked for PDK and all that stuff. But one interesting thing she says it was $7.35 million on permit. Okay. Well, there should be a record, right? Okay. A lady comes down from Dallas, and she's an expert in these records. Okay. She drives from Dallas to Midland. I meet her, and she has a meeting with the city of Midland, and because she wants to see their records, their permit records for underground structures, whatever. And she writes me and tells me, she says that she names the guy that used to work for Home Depot, by the way. He gleefully told her how they accidentally got deleted in 2014. They were upgrading their systems, and they accidentally, so we have no record of them no more. And that's the records that I was told about that prove these underground facilities that was put in for the vice president of the United States. It was called the Safe House Project. Okay. So I think that might be a whole bunch of the cover up. Okay. That's going on. And I think that these underground homes is where them oil show parties were going on, where that young girl was murdered at in 2010, and why the last homeowner was murdered the week before the 2008 oil show party started, because one of them underground homes is in my backyard. Let me tell you about that. Okay. So another woman contacts me, and she tells me, she says, go look up your house on Google Maps. And I did, because we all use Google Maps. And in my backyard, it's showing a large building or bunker that's sitting right in the middle of my backyard on the map screen that you can't see on the satellite screen or the above ground screen. Okay. Clear as day. It was there for like 10 years. I got videos, print screens, and everything. Okay. So earlier this year in January, I contacted the city of Midland, and I said, there's multiple people documented saying there's underground homes here. Plus there's supporting evidence on Google Maps. And about a week later, it got deleted from Google Maps. But I got the videos. I got the proof. It's all on my YouTube channel where they had it deleted. But that tells you that one of them underground homes is in my backyard. Okay. One of the 4. That leaves 4 others. I have an idea where 2 of them other ones are. Okay. Based on other evidence. That's a longer story. It's all on my YouTube channel. And that still leaves another one. But I believe everything. I believe what I've been told. There's actually 4 underground homes, and this was a multi-million-dollar project, and with a high level of government. Let me tell you another story. Okay, and this one's important. Okay, in 2019. Okay, I'm shot in 2012. In 2019, I contact Homeland Security. Okay, DHS. Homeland is supposed to take care of human trafficking, and I was told about a young girl that was murdered, forced prostitution murder at an oil show party. She was being forced to prostitute. They killed her. High level police were at the party. So that's what Homeland's supposed to take care of. Okay, so on July 2nd, 2019, I meet Homeland. Cervantes is his name, DHS agent Cervantes at the Midland Home Depot store. He asked to meet me there. Okay. And and I'm thinking at the time that, the justice is going to be served. But I get over there and he surprises me and he says, I don't know why you don't sell that home if you're living under the threat of death. And immediately I knew he was dirty, because that's what the criminals want me to do. They're trying to terrorize me from my home because it is rigged, just like I said. They did try to kill me in my home. They cut my phone lines and shot me. Okay. And so we went around the back of Home Depot, and I showed him on the map. Everybody here, they can go look up the Home Depot store in Midland, go to look on the Google Earth, the downloadable app, and then go to the historical pictures. Go back in time and look about 2011. I was shot in 2012, and you'll see where they cut a ditch coming from the back of Home Depot directly towards my house. Huge ditch. That's where a tunnel's coming. I'm positive of it. That's where a tunnel is. And I showed Homeland that. I showed them the pictures, and we went back there and we looked at it, and I'm going, here's the proof. I said, look at this wall, and there's evidence you can see on my YouTube channel where the wall's been tunneled under, and it's coming from that store to my house. What I believe is the people going to the oil show parties were parking in the Home Depot parking lot at night when it was closed. They were going under there. There was an underground entrance somewhere in there. They went underground, and that was the tunnel they came back to my home with, and in my backyard's one of the 4 underground homes that was put in for the Bushes. Okay, that's what I believe. Well, anyway, so I showed them all that. 2 weeks later, I get home and I hear this banging noise, and they're digging up the ground and pouring concrete back there.
Wow.
I get it on video. It went viral. I showed Homeland Security where a human trafficking murder tunnel was located, and they poured concrete to cover up the killers. And that's a fact. I stand by it, And,
What do you think these underground homes, I have 2 questions. What do you think they look like? Are they still are they still being used today? And why do you think the Bushes would have did this?
Okay, so it's understandable that somebody of that high level would have a safe house. I can understand that in 1987, but that was 35 years ago or whatever. However, y'all can do the math, but however many years ago, that was a long time ago. The Bushes have not lived in Midland for 20 years. Okay, they really have hardly any connection back to Midland anymore, and George W. Bush is no longer alive. Okay, so you got to remember that this started way long time ago, and there's a perfectly explainable reason why they would have them in there way back then. Okay, and so it's basically what they've done with them since. Okay, and I can't really tell you what shape they're in or whatever. All I can tell you is what people told me. There's 4 3-bedroom underground homes. Here's the value of them. They're buried at least 25 foot deep. These are the facts that I was told. Okay, I did have a woman on a local person here in Midland contacted me. She says, "Buddy, the word is in town is that there's an underground casino here that the high rollers take their high roller friends to." Okay, so I suspect that is true. Actually, other people have told me pretty much the same thing. Buddy, wouldn't it be cool if you could go underground and play poker, or certain little hints that there was underground casino brothel. Okay, and actually in 2012, I was at the FBI office in Midland talking to an agent named Dominic, and I was explaining all this to him, and I was talking about the underground homes, and I said maybe it's an illegal casino brothel. He says maybe. And that's exactly how he said it. That just confirmed that
Wow.
what I was guessing was correct. And that would make sense for also parties. You know what I mean? I mean, that'd be the perfect place. More than that, that would be a money maker. Because gambling in Texas is illegal. We don't have any casinos here. They have them over in New Mexico, but we don't have any in Texas. And, so they're underground, literally, you know what I mean? Underground. And so that's one idea, but I don't have proof of that. You know what I mean? But I believe that there are high level people involved here, because it's real obvious that this is a nationwide crime operation that's been hidden from the public, and somebody very powerful has been hiding that from the public. But basically, by that time, January 28, 2012, I had been reporting people in my attic for 14 months to the police. They wasn't doing nothing. They wouldn't even investigating. They were calling me crazy. Okay, and I was having crimes committed against me. I was hearing them every single day. Okay. And so this day, it was a Saturday. It was very cold. I was getting ready to go out on a business trip the next week. I went to the grocery store. I bought groceries. I come back home. The only door that I could get in was my front door. I had all my other doors sealed with extra locks, because I was trying to figure out how they were getting in my house. And at that time, I didn't know they were coming from under my house with, all this other stuff that I know today of hidden underground homes, tunnels, and all that other evidence and proofs. Okay. And so I had the only lock I get in is that front door. And so I come in the door. As soon as I walked in the door, I noticed a cushion was out of place on my couch. And I'm like a real tidy, neat person. Everything has a place and it's in order and all that. So I knew somebody had been in my house again, okay, which had been going on for over a year. And like I said, now I know it was going on way before I even moved here. But anyways, I get this idea to tie wire my spare door shut, okay? And the reason I did that was to compartmentalize my house and try to figure out where they were coming in from, because the ex-wife had already told me there was a trap door here, but I didn't know where it was at. And we had just separated less than a month before I was shot, okay? And so I have a 3-bedroom home, 2 bath, and I'm single. So I only need 1 bed, 1 bath. And so I just took regular tie wire, and I went through and I spent a couple hours tie wiring doors shut. Okay. And unknowingly, when I did, I trapped a burglar in my guest bathroom. Okay. And I now know that. Okay. I found proof after I got out of the hospital. I found pry marks on the top of the inside of the door, and the door was half torn off the hinge. And so I knew that I had trapped a burglar in there after the fact, but I didn't know it at the time. But if you put yourself in that position, there's a burglar trapped in this room, and I'm on the other side of the door with a gun and every right to protect my life and property. They're breaking into a private home. That's a felony. Okay. I got the right to protect my life. Okay. And so here they've got all their money and their technology and their tunnels. They got the police corruption. They have the press helping them commit these crimes against innocent homeowners, and a piece of tie wire stuck them. Okay. It's a dire situation for the criminals at that point. Okay. And that's the truth. So they had a choice. Okay. Basically, they had a choice at that moment that they could give themselves up, call the police and say, I'm a burglar. I've been breaking this house. We got an underground home here and tunnels. We've been raping and murdering kids. We killed the last guy. We've been terrorizing this guy relentlessly. We're using all this technology, et cetera. Arrest me, send me to prison for 10 years because I'm a burglar and I'm breaking into a home. But they didn't want to do that. Okay. That's when they chose to kill me. That was premeditated, because they cut my phone lines before they shot me. Okay. And their friends did. And that's basically what happened. At the time, burglar alarms are going off in the attic over and over and over again. I'm recording on a voice recorder. Okay. And I'm walking through my house, and I got my guns, and I'm looking, I'm securing my perimeters, because I know they're here. They're setting off the burglar alarms or the motion detectors in the attic over and over and over. It's a scary situation, And so when I get to my through my kitchen into my utility room, a tiny little room, and I put my gun down, I'm fixing to open the back door, boom, I fall to the floor. Okay. They shot me by surprise, ambushed is what it was. And so they literally, the shot did not come up through the floor. The shot was level with the ground. The entrance and exit wounds on my foot were 2 inches above ground level. So the burglar was under the ground waiting for me to walk by. And when I walked by, they pulled the trigger. Okay.
Where was a burglar at where was a burglar at?
They were under the cabinet in my utility room, and it's a tiny room. It's only like 8 foot by 9 foot. I know that now. Okay, so that's where the trap door was at that the ex-wife told me about, but I didn't know that at the time. Okay, but I know that because that's where I was shot, and I found multiple proofs showing that I was not shot with my gun. That's very important. You know, proof that I wasn't shot with my gun is proof that somebody shot me. Can we all agree to that, right?
Yes.
You know, and so there's multiple proofs. As like one, the size of pellets removed from my foot were 2.5 sizes different than the pellets are in my gun. That's proof. That's ballistic evidence saying I wasn't shot with my gun. Another proof is the police were saying I shot with my own 12-gauge shotgun, which didn't happen. Okay, but the CSI Tony Barrett, that said he picked up my shotgun from the house, he checked it into evidence. He checked in the 4 live shells from the gun, which it was a fully loaded pump shotgun, but he didn't check in an empty shell. And anybody that knows anything about guns knows that if I was shot with my gun, as the police falsely claimed, then the empty shell would have been in the gun. Okay. And he would have had to eject that shell to get the live shells out. He would, and like I said, the evidence shows he did not check in an empty shell from my gun. Okay. And actually, an empty shell was checked in about 2 years later by another cop after I made a big point in the public about there no empty shotgun shell found. Okay, which was proof that I wasn't shot with my gun. Okay, and that's proof somebody under my own shot. So that's why I know where I was shot. And I know, and because I was shot from 2 inches above ground, I know they were under my house. Like I told you earlier, another guy had already told me there was tunnels under this house. Okay, go ahead.
So, buddy, you were shot. You hit the ground. Did you see anybody? What did you do next?
I didn't. Actually, I fell to the ground, and instinctively I jumped right back up. Okay, and I mean that's what I did, and I fell right back down because my foot was just flopping on the end of my leg. Okay,
wow.
And I look and I see the blood. I mean, I didn't even know what happened. Okay, I'm in shock. Okay, of course, because I just got shot. I had a phone in my carried on. I had my cordless phone on me. My cell phone had been stolen or went missing right, a few hours earlier. I believe now they stole my cell phone and then they cut my phone lines before shooting me. But anyway, I went to use that cordless phone and it was dead. That's a scary situation. I had no communications, and that was the plan. They planned on me bleeding out and dying without communication, without the ability to call for help. Okay, because they stole my cell phone, cut my home phone lines, and then shot me by surprise. Okay, why didn't they shoot me twice? Because then it wouldn't look like an accident. And they were calling this. They wanted to call this an accident. They wanted to say that I shot myself with my gun, and that was going to add $500,000 to the life insurance policy. Okay, very important there. There's a whole big story along with that. Okay, on the money side of this. Okay. But anyway, I crawled out of my home. I crawled to the other side of my house to try to get communication, try to get somebody to phone it. I couldn't get nobody. And then I crawled out the front door, pulled myself in my truck, and I drove to the 7-Eleven. Okay. And at the 7-Eleven, I rolled my window down and told the people in the car next to me, I've been shot, I need an ambulance, etc. Okay. And then a few minutes later, a detective showed up named Rosie Rodriguez, and crawls in my front seat and starts giving me first aid. And I feel like the cavalry's there because, I've been reporting these crimes for over a year, and then now I'm shot, and okay, here's the police and I'm telling them what's going on and everything. I find out later she said that she wasn't even there. Okay. This dirty cop. She is a dirty cop. And more than that, I also find out 2 years later that she's lifelong friends with that ex-wife that I'd filed divorce on. Okay, less than 5 days earlier, I'd filed divorce on that ex-wife. That was from a 3-month marriage, but she was lifelong friends and went to grade school with that ex-wife. They were buddies, is what it was. And so a little bit about the ex-wife. Her former boyfriend contacted me after I was shot. And he says, "You think she had anything to do with it?" And I said, "Well, I think she's in Lubbock at the time, but I think she knows who's behind this." And he says, "I think she had a lot to do with it from the things she told me, and she threatened to have me killed too." And I have the print screen of the Facebook message of that. So it's not Buddy saying he said, not he said, she said. So I got the proof. That was actually read in court at that protective order hearing 22 months after the murder attempt, which is another story. But just 8 years later, this guy, Arthur Welch, the former boyfriend, he posted on Facebook that he overheard her planning my murder with her police friends to steal life insurance. Okay. And like I said, on the life insurance, she had taken my life insurance books less than a month when we separated, and then she brought them back to my house, my life insurance books, and they showed that if her friend, Rosie Rodriguez, ruled my murder an accident, it added $500,000 to the payout. So altogether, she was going to get over $1 million. The biggest thing, the whole biggest prize was this home. Okay, this home is the big prize because it has the underground home in the backyard where the oil show parties were going on. Like I said, probably a moneymaker casino deal, whatever, connected to multiple murders. Remember, one guy asked me if I knew the names of the 4 people who've been murdered, died in my house. Aaron Packahofer, he's a local businessman. We can ask him. That's another person law enforcement can talk to. And so that gives you an idea that I don't think that the ex-wife I don't think she pulled the trigger, but I think she knows what did and who did, but also there's a significant police corruption. Okay. I want to tell another story. Okay.
Go ahead.
When I got back out of the hospital, I found pictures on my cameras of police in my house. Okay. Which is expected. There's a murder attempt here. And I had the security cameras because of the crimes that had been going on, So I see these pictures on my computer, and then I order the police reports, and I don't get a police report showing any police here when I have pictures of police in my house. Okay, so I don't have their names, and that's illegal. You know what I mean? I got to have their names. And so I sent these pictures to the sheriff and to the police and the attorney general and the mayor and everybody else. And I explained that, here's pictures of police, and I ain't got no names for them, and I nicknamed them the secret police. They didn't name them. Nobody contacted me. Nobody named them. So I nicknamed them the secret police. And I started making videos that went viral worldwide. Like I said, I got 1 million views on my YouTube channel. And there was a bunch of them. There's like 11 of them. These secret police I don't have their names to. They're in my house right after a murder attempt. Okay, hours after a murder attempt. And so 6 years goes by of death threats, repeated break-ins to my house, and people coming to me going, "I'd sell that home if I was you," because they're trying to terrorize me from my home, because it's going to help them out. It's going to prove my case, but it'll help them out if I move, And so 6 years later, Empire Private Investigations collected the $2,000 reward money. Keep in mind, this is the first time in the history of America a crime victim offered a reward to identify police. Okay, and not a news story in the nation. Okay, and so
buddy, real quick, what about the local News West 9, Big 2, CBS 7? Did you reach out to anybody to get any kind of coverage or exposure?
Hundreds of times, yeah, and still do. Hundreds of times, all the local news, local state.
Why won't they help? Even though I already know the answer, why would they not help?
I mean, I can't answer these questions that, like that, whether they've been ordered to by law enforcement, bribed, there was recently a story about Twitter. FBI paid them $3.2 million to do some stuff, on the public. And, that's the kind of stuff I think is going on. Obviously, somebody very powerful is stopping this story that should be a national news story. Let me get back to these police. Okay.
Go ahead.
The private investigator identifies all 11 of them in 2018. It's amazing. The first one that showed up at my house on video was Martin County Sheriff John Woodward, and this is Midland County. So I got a sheriff from a whole other county at my front door minutes after a premeditated murder attempt, right? And nobody's ever explained that. Okay, he was followed. was followed by the late Sheriff Deputy Mike Naylor. Naylor is the one that died in the line of duty in 2014. He's the hero that we renamed 191 Highway after. Okay, and remember he was out serving a warrant, and they got shot during, and that was in 2014.
Okay.
At the time, I had a reward offered for his identity. Okay, he was a secret police. The public was never told that Naylor was that the hero Naylor had a reward offered for his identity, and he was a secret police on the murder attempt on my life, which is connected to the murder of the last guy who lived there, which is connected to the other murders at this house. But then also inside my house was Midland Canine police officer Chad Simpson. Chad Simpson was the cop that murdered his wife and killed himself here in Midland 2 months after Naylor died. That was big news when a cop murdered his wife. And he was a secret police that was in my house. Also keep in mind that neither Woodward, Naylor, or Simpsons, their names were not on the police report. They were omitted, illegally omitted. They tried to hide the fact that they were here, and now they're dead. Okay, there's a whole list of them. They're all on. I have a whole list of them. They're all on my YouTube channel. Okay, so the next year, wait a minute. Let me go on. The next year in 2019, I see a report number that I on my paperwork that I didn't have. So I sent in a information request to the city. Give me this report number, and I get the police report for the night of the murder attempt. The police had been withholding the police report from me for 7 years. Okay, illegally. It had been subpoenaed in 2013 during that court hearing I was talking about. They were hiding the police report from me. And that police report says this person was here, et cetera. Okay, and it was falsified all up and down because all these people caught on camera and identified, their names are not on that police report. There were 6 officers' names illegally omitted from the police report. That's a felony. When you falsify a police report, that's a felony. And one of them might be, we forgot, and that's an accident. 6 officers isn't an accident. That's a felony. They were covering up a murder attempt, is what they were doing. Okay, wait a minute. I want to go a little bit more. Okay, this police report, very important, time-stamped police officers at my house, okay? And specifically, Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale, 5 officers, okay, time-stamped. And the reason that's important, because my camera was still working, my security cameras, and it saw Woodward and Naylor arriving in their cars at 11:01. Okay, so at 11:01, Woodward and Naylor arrived, and 3 minutes later, Davis arrived, and 5 minutes later, Lieutenant Dickey is inside my home, but he wasn't seen arriving. That's very important. Police are at my home, but not seen arriving. So ask yourself, how did they get inside my home without being seen arriving on the camera like them other officers? They were under my home. The police were under my home. That's a big deal.
Wow.
Somebody under my home shot me. Okay, now you can ask your question.
Buddy, this is very wild. Let me ask you just plain out, why do you think a sheriff, a deputy from another county, from Martin County, I mean, why do you think these men were there? If the cover-up is as you claim it was, why do you think they were there, and what was their involvement that you think?
Okay, what I believe, and I'm guessing here because all I can do is speculate until we arrest people and ask them, right? And so one thing the ex-wife said after she got out of the hospital, or after I got shot, I got out of the hospital, she come by and she says, "You don't know how many lives you ruined with your idiocy." Okay, but what that basically, I think she was saying my idiocy was when I tie-wired the door shut and trapped the burglar or whatever, that was my idiocy. But what she was saying was a lot of people were here. Okay, you don't know how many lives you run. That a lot of people were here. Well, where were they? They were in the underground home in the backyard. Okay, that's where they were at. Okay, I believe some party was going on. That night, and then those people, they literally got caught up in this, which would actually make them a witness to a capital attempted murder, or an accessory, right? If they didn't report it as required by law, they'd be an accessory to a capital attempted murder. And the other thing she says, you don't know how many lives you ruined. Well, what were they doing down there that would ruin their lives? And remember, that other woman I recorded told me that they were having pedophile parties. You remember that?
Yes.
I've got her recorded. She said they were having pedophile. So possibly that's what was going on the night that I was ambushed and shot, that there was a party going on. And also, I have no proof, but I've suspected that there's a connection to swingers. Just a couple of months later, that there's a large group of swingers in this town, and that we're going to have a convention here that got canceled just a couple months before the 29 oil show party.
How do you know that, buddy? How do you know about that, buddy? Because this is a conservative.
It was in the paper.
Wow.
Yeah, it was in the paper. Yeah, it was in the news. The district attorney and all that.
Buddy, so this happened at night, correct? 11 at night is basically when you were shot. When you believe
when I shot.
Okay,
that's right.
So, buddy, this is crazy. And one officer kills his wife. I mean, this is kind of a suspect here with these individuals that you claim were there. Go ahead.
Some people have wondered, because I was told that Chad was a good guy. I know people in his family, and I was told that Nader was a good guy. And keep in mind, I'm not a cop hater. I'm a supporter of law enforcement. Lifelong supporter. Never had a felony, sir. But I was told these were good guys, so I wondered if they were going to snitch. If Simpson and Nader were going to snitch on the other secret police that were here, and they didn't want that to happen, because then it would expose the $1 million underground homes and all the other crimes that go along with it.
Okay.
And they were taken out, and it was covered up. That's still out there. I mean, that question's been asked.
Buddy, another question. Where is the proof of the hole in the ground where they were going in and out of your house, the tunnel where they shot you from? Where's that hole? What happened to that hole?
Yeah, I believe it was covered up with concrete, actually. And while I was in the hospital 10 days. And I believe that's when they come in and covered up, because I pulled that cabinet out after. But like I said, the evidence shows me where I was shot. The evidence shows me that I wasn't shot with my gun. The evidence shows me lots of people said tunnels and underground homes are here. So I know that that's where it was at. Okay. And then, like I told you, the ex-wife had already told me there was a trap door here, et cetera. And but as far as where it is now, I believe it was covered up during that time period, and that there's people that know about it. I mean, the police had my keys to my house at the time, and but I feel sure that's when it was covered up. But that underground home, I believe, is still out there in the backyard, though.
Buddy, so real quick, was there a spot of fresh concrete, or could you look at the spot and be like, there was actual something else here before they?
It wasn't possible for me to tell when I looked at it. It was because it's tiled around it. It's the way it is, and so it's only like a 4 foot by 5 foot piece of concrete that when you pull the cabinet out, it's real weird, how it is, because they tiled around the cabinet that was there. And so, yeah, it was not possible. But like I said, the evidence shows me already that I wasn't shot with my gun, and shows me where I was shot. And I have multiple people saying tunnels and underground homes are here. So I know for a fact that's where it was at. I mean, I'm positive of it. Yeah, I'm absolutely positive of it. And then I have multiple people.
No, could you go to your backyard right? Could you go to the backyard or outside right now and point to where you think that underground house is? Do you know, like, in your mind, basically where it's at?
I can, and more than that, I can show you on the map. That's what I said before. Here, I know where a map is. More than that, remember, I was, my friend Angie told me about a young girl that was murdered at 2010 oil show party, right? And I believe that's where it happened at. Was in that underground home right there. Okay.
Wow.
And there's plenty of reason that, I've said it before, that I've turned this in. I've turned Crime Stoppers in to law enforcement and police and everything. The problem is the police were at the parties, et cetera. They're covering it up. But yeah, I know exactly where the underground home in my backyard is, because it was on Google Maps. It's posted all over my YouTube and Facebook, them Google Maps of where that underground home is in the backyard. I also believe I know, remember I was told there's 4 of them. I think I know where 2 others are. Okay. One of them's around now I remember, that one lady, she told me it's a half block away. Okay, remember she said that? I've got her documented. Well, a half block from my house around the corner on Whittle Way and Westmont Court, okay, is a house there, and there's an empty lot. Basically, it's where Whittle Way runs into the wall for Home Depot, and it dead ends. And so that leaves there's a vacant lot there, okay? And there's here's some of the clues, is that home had a mortar problem like my home had, a weird mortar problem. Okay. And I believe the mortar problem came for digging under the house. The house settled and it broke the mortar joints. Okay. So the mortar problem was caused from digging under the home, the foundation. It's a foundation problem. Okay. So that house had the same mortar problem my house did. Plus, it has a water well there. And right next to where I believe the underground home in the backyard is, the neighbor has a water well. Okay, so that's two clues on where an underground home is: water well and a mortar problem. And then there's another house on, I think it's Fair Green Court. It's a cul-de-sac off Fairbanks. It's right down my alley, really. It's real close. And once again, that house had the same weird mortar problem that my home had, and it has a water well there, okay? And so I think I've identified where in that house, I could see in the old Google Earth pictures where they had done work on their fences and stuff, that I think, that, there's an underground home there. There's an underground home here, and, that still leaves one more because there's four of them, I was told, Also, go ahead. Also, that home over there I was talking about, Fairgreen, is across from the Fairmont Park Church of Christ. And I had a law enforcement officer advise me, and I've got a print screen of him saying, I think you need to go snoop around that church. And I think that was a hint.
Wow.
He was telling me that church had some kind of connection to it, to what's going on with the underground homes. And like I said, it's right over there next to where that home where I believe there's one of them underground homes at.
Buddy, all this is very strange. Your story hasn't changed from the years ago when you told me this the first time I heard this. Why, out of all cities, Midland, Texas? I want to go into the next subject about happening nationwide. But have you ever thought, why your city? Why this city, Midland? I haven't even talked about Gary Painter, high-ranking Mason, member, he gets, inducted the highest-ranking position and dies of a heart attack the next day, legendary sheriff. But why do you think, out of all places, that Midland, Texas is a place where something like this would happen, especially, now we're starting to figure out some of this stuff is not too crazy with human trafficking, these claims of high elite people doing wicked things to children. I mean, this stuff is kind of going along that, line. But why do you think, out of all places, Midland, Texas is the place that this all took place?
Okay, I'm going to cover one thing and then circle back.
Okay.
But you mentioned Gary Painter, okay, and it reminded me of something I forgot to tell you a minute ago. Of the multiple people documented as saying underground homes and tunnels are here. During the election for sheriff in 2020, because as you said, Gary Painter died, so we had election. Okay, so during the election for sheriff in 2020, I was talking to all the candidates on the phone, and I was talking to Joe Lozano. He was running for Midland sheriff at the time, and I was telling him the same thing I told here. Okay, and I was recording him, and he didn't know it, and we were talking about the underground homes here, and Joe blurts out, he says, "Buddy, that was Painter's hideout."
Wow.
Okay, he didn't know I was recording him. And that was another confirmation from a guy running for Midland sheriff that these underground homes are here. Okay, that was one more confirmation from it, and it's recorded, and I posted that on my YouTube channel, and it went viral. But the press hid it from the public, from the voting public, and Kreiner won the election. And then after the fact, they arrested Lozano, said that he assaulted some girl or something, and they arrested him. And I think it was retribution because he told me that Painter used to hide out or hang out in these underground homes here. Okay, and that would make sense because I had been contacting Sheriff Painter all that time, and he wasn't doing nothing about the crimes. Okay, and so now I'm going to circle back on your original question. Why do I think Midland? Okay, that was your question, right? Okay. Yeah. The question is why Midland, and I don't think it's specifically limited to Midland. I mean, like I said, I've documented homeowners from California, Alabama. I am in Midland, and I've identified, the most, 15 plus homeowners here. It grows. Every time I turn around, somebody new tells me. I mean, just within the last week, and then also in Odessa, another 15 over in Odessa.
They tell you what? What do they tell you?
That somebody's in the attic of their house. I just heard about a house in Grass. When I was in the hospital, a woman comes to my room,
okay,
and she's telling me, I lived in Grassland. We used to hear people in the attic of that house at Grassland, and that's a nice house over in Grassland, And but anyway, every time I turn around, I hear somebody new telling me it's another story. But anyways, the other thing that's important here is the $4 million underground homes put in by the Bushes. Now that's a big deal, and the Bushes are from Midland. So I think, I think the court, but a lot of people, especially your listeners that are not from this area, they need to understand that Midland is not like some just little oil field town. Midland is sitting on the biggest oil field, in the nation.
Yes.
And they have, we used to have some of the wealthiest people in the nation live here. This is an extremely wealthy town that's not very big, and I mean, that's the, that's the core there, that there's a whole bunch of money here and there ain't a lot of people here. So you can imagine that the people have the money. They pull the strings on who the elected officials are and who's the chief of police and who's the sheriff, et cetera. That's my personal belief. And that's why, I think the core of it's here is because of what's already been identified or, said to have happened, that these underground homes were put in for the Bushes. Now, I think they might have used that for an excuse to cover up the murders, like the young girl. Oh, we can't investigate. This is top secret. You know what I mean? When it's really no longer top secret because the Bush has been gone for 20 plus years, or whatever, But I think they might have used that, or they contact the press, News West 9. You can't report what Buddy's saying about these secret police because this is top secret. Because it has a connection to the Bushes. They've used that as an excuse to cover up their crimes and murders.
Okay. Buddy, let's get to the nationwide issue, and then we'll wind this down. This is happening, you claim, nationwide. Why?
Well, it's once I started getting on the internet, and my like so my YouTube channel has over 1 million views, 1.1 million. TikTok over 3 million. People from all over the world are watching what's going on here. I mean, it's an interesting story. You have to admit, right? I mean,
yes.
It's fact based. It's incredible. It should be a movie.
People that are listening, they need to understand. You're not just telling me a long tale. I mean, it's a long tale, but you have a lot. My producer looked at it too. You have a lot of evidence, a lot of videos. This is just an actual, audio interview, but there's a bunch of evidence that you do possess. I will give that to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and because otherwise, then I just had a wild story. You know what I mean? But with all these people documented, recorded, secretly recorded, then all the physical evidence. There's no doubt. It becomes real clear that Buddy's been telling the truth all along. And but when I was leaving the hospital, I had a heart attack. Actually, I had kidney failure and then a heart attack. And but last time I was in the hospital, one of the doctors looks at me and he just kind of smiles and he says, "I'll be looking forward to the movie." Because he knows, and this
wow.
I think is worthy of a movie, there's a whole bunch of people that know, even though our press has tried to hide these crimes from the public, but there's a more and more every day. And like I said, it's worldwide. So going nationwide, there's women that I've documented, or people I've documented in California, and actually I can name different states where I've got print screens, emails where people contacted me, said this was going on here, this was going on here. I've got it. There's so many I've lost track. There's a woman in Alabama. She climbs up, and she'd been reporting people in the attic. She climbs up in her attic and she makes videos for me and sends them to me. I have a video called Alabama Attic, and she shows this crawl space, or this space behind her bedroom wall, and it's big enough for a person to go down. That's what I'm saying. That's how they're rigging these homes, or most of these homes, and is with this crawl space, but that's a interesting video too.
anybody listening, can you give them a quick how to check your attic and how you would inspect, for this kind of a situation? Because to be honest, buddy, I was up there spraying insulation one time in my attic, and I didn't even know, but I have basically a small little, probably a 5 by 5 square empty space, room inside of the walls, right? Like you can't tell unless you're looking, down, and it's pretty creepy that I'm like, man, I never knew I had like a little space in the middle of my house that you could probably fit a little bed, Can you talk about what to look for in the attic, or because people might say this sounds crazy, but I've looked in my attic and there is spots up there and in between the walls where someone could basically live there or stay there, sleep there, etc. Is what can you look out for? Can you give some ideas?
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. I've been in my attic many times. You'll have people, what aren't you going to have? I've been up there many times. What I believe here, they come up a modified wall into and like I said, where there's a hidden trap door is where they're doing, possibly even a false ceiling. One of the reasons, one of the things I did, I have a video called "Find the Wall, Find the Tunnel." Okay, so once I secured my doors and checked my roof, and I knew it was coming rough, I knew they were coming up a wall. Then all I had to do was find a wall that has enough crawl space, and most walls in a house don't have crawl space, just like you talked about. Okay, and it's odd when you find, like you're talking about, this 5 by 5 space. You just telling me that makes me wonder if your home ain't rigged.
Man.
Because that's the crawl space they're needing, because that allows them to get from the ground up to the attic without being seen. Okay. So if you're up there and you have just an obvious space, well, there you go. That's real. My home in Hobbs had the same thing. Next to the fireplace was two spaces, plenty of room that a person could crawl up from the ground up into the attic. Okay. And I know that because I was up there, but I wasn't suspecting anything when I lived in Hobbs. I now believe the home I lived in Hobbs was rigged. Okay. And that's a whole nother story. But I now believe that home back there is rigged. I believe these crimes have been going on forever, and they're all over the place. But basically, what I want to say is find, if you want to find, you got somebody, you're hearing somebody in the attic, you're sure they're up there, you can't find where they're going, you go up in the attic and you can't find it, you find the wall. And you can do that as you just go through and you drill holes in your wall, okay, and you measure the wall depth. Okay. And just like, like you're saying, you check every wall, sooner or later, you're going to find the spot that there's a crawl space. So you find the wall, you find the tunnel. In my home, remember that I was trying to stop these criminals, and I tie-wired them doors, and they cut my phone lines and shot me. And then I proved police were under my home. So I no longer look. Okay, I hope you can understand why I don't go trying to catch these or expose these criminals that break in my home. Because when I tried to look, they cut my phone lines and shot me, and I found out police were under my home helping them. Okay, but other people, there's a way to do it right there. And basically that's how you're going to find it, is because it's just logic. It's physics. They got to get up there somewhere. If they're not getting up from a trap door on the roof, they're not getting up from the doors that come in from the the regular doors, and you're getting up there. Because when, if you hear somebody up there, oh, that's not a mouse. That's somebody. You know what I mean? That's all there is to it. You heard somebody. And calling all these people liars it's done. That's over. We're past that point of calling all these people liars. That only worked when you had one person you could call a liar. But you can't call them all liars. Oh, you're crazy and you're a liar. No, I'm not crazy. And more than that, I have all kinds of evidence. I got proof. I got all these videos of the burglar alarms going off. I recorded them making noise in my attic. That was actually talked about on my Facebook today.
Wow.
And I heard somebody above my bathroom today. The crimes at my house have never stopped.
Wow.
They have never stopped. And they've gone on every single day. Why? Because there's an underground home in the backyard, $1 million underground home put in for the bushes. And it's a standstill is what it is. And it's an unprecedented police corruption.
Okay. So, buddy, winding down here, this has dramatically changed your life. I guess it's fair to say. What would be your final words, at the end of this whole video for anybody watching in regards to people in the attic, underground tunnels, and underground facilities and human trafficking? Go ahead, buddy.
I wouldn't wish this on my worst nightmare, or on my worst this nightmare on my worst enemy. and it's going on all over the place. I think there's many homeowners don't even know out there, and these crimes are being committed against them. It's got to be stopped. I mean, that's all there is to it. And there has to be an end. There's too much evidence in the public. It's got to end. It's time. It's time for it to end. For the people there that are the crime victims, they have my prayers, my earnest, my sincere prayers. And the one thing that's been my strength is God. I want to say that He's carried me through it. And and I've literally, what I say is seen miracle after miracle. There's been a huge amount of information that's been revealed to me that I didn't know. You know what I mean? As I've explained here, that just out of the blue, I happened to find this proof and that proof and that proof, because back when it started, all I had was this crazy story, and they called me crazy and there wasn't nothing I could do. I had to shut up, I literally just had to shut up, and then they shot me, and so that tells you they're dangerous. These are not good old boys, Generally speaking, they don't, they just want to steal from you, But you try to stop them, then they're going to kill you, And I think they killed the guy before me. That's a whole nother story I didn't even talk about. But that's my main thing it's time for the stop. There's too much evidence in the public right now for the police to continue to play stupid, and Buddy's crazy and all that. That don't work anymore. Buddy's not crazy. And them other homeowners aren't crazy. This is an organized crime, and it needs to stop.
Well, thank you, buddy, for your time. Thank you for explaining your whole situation with the viewers. I will link your YouTube channel below and any Facebook links also. Buddy Webb, I thank you for telling your tale, and God bless you, sir.
Here, let me give you my addresses.
Go ahead.
From YouTube. Okay. My Facebook's under Buddy Wayne Webb. My YouTube is Buddy Webb, one word. And then on TikTok, it's Buddy Wayne Webb, one word. And so that's how if anybody wants to explore deeper, I got 1,200 videos on YouTube of covering it in depth, and who, where, when, how, everything. But that didn't mean all the answers, all the questions have been answered, but the evidence is there.
Well, thank you, buddy, for explaining everything and telling your story. God bless.
Thank you, Nino. God bless you.